Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for today, Friday, September 28th, 2012. I'm Darko. My website is ggnonline.com. On YouTube's ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. Thank you for joining me, and this will be the last video for today. Okay, so we just covered precision agriculture using military technology, basically drones on the farm to protect these big fields and these big slobs of homes that the green belt that these elites are going to be living on, and their own private cities, right? Where human rights lawyers try to go and say, that's kind of unconstitutional. So what happens? They get death threats, and he's been murdered now. So they just got him out of the way. Speaking of which, as far as mysterious murders in Virginia, a family killed. Husband and wife both had direct links to Black World Contractors. Update. He said he wanted to expose something at work. Where did Albert Peterson work after he left Northrop Grumman? Well, he also mentioned pressures at work that troubled Maggie, explaining his increasingly erratic behavior. He said he wanted to expose something at work. He also got the impression at work that if they didn't vote for Obama and get him elected, that they would lose their jobs. The ABC News covered it as what? As a murder-suicide. They said the bodies were discovered when police were doing a welfare check after one of the adults did not show up to work for 2 days. It says Peterson had worked for Northrop until he resigned in 2009. It's not clear where he was working at the time of the incident. So the family had attended a community picnic together on Sunday and showed no signs of any problems. So, there you go, guys. Man kills himself on live TV as Fox covers chase. So the mass media, they can't keep up. The mainstream media, the propaganda machine, they can't keep up with the engineering blowback. I was talking to a friend about this earlier when I saw this, because I do have some suicide articles coming up. And I just, a fair warning, for those people out there that have considered it, I don't have any shame. I've considered it before. I'm not considering it now, but it's like I understand where people, when they're in situations like that. And the thing is that I know that part of the psychotronic warfare is pulsing people with these frequencies to do things like that, to just go ahead, put the gun to your head, and or take out your family or something like that. And so just be careful of that if you are having those feelings right now, and try to do what you can. My thing is meditating and trying to stay grounded, and using that type of work to protect myself from this stuff, because you're being bombarded 24/7, especially while you're sleeping. Man killed himself on live TV as Fox covers the chase. So their job is to sensationalize it. Right? They're supposed to sensationalize this. Ooh, look at the bad guy run, and look at the cops, look at the parents chase the little kid, the children, right? And what they didn't expect is the guy probably maybe had nothing to lose, who knows, right? And was just like, okay, boom, right? So you can go, the video, I did have a link, but it's not in here, and just for time's sake, and just because I don't feel like showing it, I've seen it, I just watched it once. You can go in there and check it out somewhere on the net. But, Shepard Smith of Fox says he looks a little disoriented or something before the man pulled out the gun and pointed it to his head. Then it goes on and it says that as a man pulled the trigger and toppled over, Smith told his off-screen producers, get off, get off, get off, get off. But the footage had already aired. So they went on there and said, we apologize. We really messed up. We're all very sorry. So my point here is, and I don't mean to be like going on and on, but when they put this stuff out here with the articles I'm about to cover, they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to promote something, like zombies and stuff like that. So what I have next is U.S. starts program to stop rising suicide rate among Army soldiers. This is becoming very obvious. Again, engineering and basically blowback of what they're doing, their policies. These guys are burnt out, and a lot of them can't take it. And have no one to turn to. You can't just say, I have PTSD, give me drugs. And when they come back, they don't really get the help that they need. So what are they doing? Well, they just contracted to have nasal spray to prevent suicides. A nasal spray to a big pharma company. So it says here, as the rate of suicide among the U.S. Army soldiers has climbed to nearly 1 per day, even more than combat deaths, the military force is trying to enforce a suicide prevention training program. So you go down to the comments. Someone made a very, very, very excellent observation. Soldier and veteran suicides are directly related to the immoral military missions that they have been assigned by their warmongering commander-in-chief, who has a Zionist breathing down their necks. U.S. soldiers around the world were ordered to take part in suicide prevention training sessions on Thursday in a new attempt by the American military to beat back what they reportedly referred to as some of the misconceptions about military suicide, such as the thought that only those in battlefield are at risk, the U.S.-based NPR said Thursday. This is a typical procedure that the military would do. They have congressmen and politicians breathing down their neck, and so they put these little ad hoc little sessions, right, together. But what I found today when I saw this article from September 25th, Sergeant's unexpected suicide rattles his MP unit. So on Thursday, military policeman Sergeant Derek Smith was in a small conference room in Virginia playing a role of a concerned friend in a suicide prevention training session. That Sunday, he was found in his patrol car, dead of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. But it's pretty interesting because they said from my view, he had not had a care in the world and his life was going great, said a staff sergeant. No sign whatsoever. I spoke to him that Friday and his family had spoken to him that afternoon. At least to his coworkers, he showed no signs of behavioral health problems, financial distress, or relationship issues that often precede a suicide. So, could this suicide prevention be like sex education for young people, like in kindergarten, that it actually promotes it? They do the suicide preventions and then actually go and say, well, I'm going to go ahead and kill myself. That's some pretty deep psychological shit right there. And the fact that they're going to be doing this now, ordering, just like when they do something like this, that's a big deal. That means they're going to really be pushing it, ramming it home. There could be even more suicides. So then you have this. Then I saw this article from September 27th. 25 Japanese self-defense forces sent to Iraq commit suicide. 25 personnel from the force of Japan have committed suicide between 2005 and 2011 after being sent to Iraq. And lastly, in the fiscal year 2011, the number of suicides among the around 250,000 self-defense force totaled at 78. From September 22nd, a casualty of war, a major general who fought in Iraq in 91 and again in 2006. 2010, he commanded the Australian troops in Afghanistan, and upon his return, he was in the running to be the chief of the army. Instead, he found himself in a psychiatric ward. He said that he had promised himself when he had returned that he would visit the families of all those who were killed in 2010, but that he couldn't muster the courage. He said, I know that I will break down in front of them, and what would be the good of that? I want to see them and offer my personal regrets, but I need to be strong. So he says, released from responsibility, it's like a dam in his mind is cracked, flooding him with despair. The barriers that he had built and shored up over the years, especially over the past 12 months, started to shift and buckle, releasing pent-up misery. Then you have a U.S. Army general charged with sex, assaults, adultery, had been sent home from Afghanistan. Brigadier General, who served 5 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, has been charged with forcible sodomy, multiple counts of adultery, and having inappropriate relationships with several female subordinates. And I'm sorry to have to switch back to this, but I didn't plan on making 3 videos, and, you know, it is kind of important to include these other articles about Iran and what we covered, which was the Zionist 9/11 and the making for war on Iran. And we were talking about the video that we just showed with, basically them saying we need a false flag. So first we have from September 26th, Veterans for Peace meets with Ahmadinejad, and along with other U.S. peace activists met on Tuesday night with the Iranian president. So. And they also basically wrote him a nice letter explaining everything about how that the neocons and everything doesn't represent the American people or the veterans, and that they're committed to doing everything possible to prevent a U.S. or U.S.-assisted attack on Iran. And when they say U.S.-assisted attacks, they're talking about this individual. Netanyahu draws red line on Iran's nuclear program. When I saw this, I thought it was a joke. You know what I mean? I literally thought, a little ticking bomb and everything. The first stage, the second stage, we got to draw a line in the sand. And a line in the sand for Israel is in Iran's own country. So if Iranians walk outside their house, they're crossing the red line because that's the way they work. Like like I was talking about with Sweden, right? They got to always be on the defense. We're being attacked. We must go on a preemptive attack. But it must have had some kind of impact because I saw these articles, and trust me, I see when I go through all these hundreds of articles, I try to read between just the same old nonsense and rhetoric BS, and recently we've had Obama saying that, in the Defense Department drawing up plans that they're not going to do, that they're going to abandon Israel. I never think that's going to happen, never did. It says White House, U.S., Israel in full agreement on stopping Iran. Statement follows second phone conversation in 3 weeks between Obama and Netanyahu. Romney also calls the prime minister, says he hopes to avoid military conflict, but can't take that action off the table. So they're in full agreement on preventing Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, which they probably already had, like I mentioned before. So... And then you have Clinton. Iran will stop at nothing to protect Syria, right? So again, they're trying to tie it to Syria right now, to say that in order to get a regime change in Syria, to of course they're going to say to end the humanitarian crisis, to end the bloodshed in Syria, we must attack Iran. And then I'll leave you with this article as far as Mideast news goes. Bunker mentality, Iran quietly makes massive wheat buy. They bought 1 million tons of milling wheat in the past 2 weeks from the EU, despite food financial sanctions. Wall Street's rolling back another key piece of financial reform with the passage of a new House bill, which rolls back a portion of the Dodd-Frank designed to protect cities and towns for the next Jefferson County disaster in Alabama, where they filed for bankruptcy. Then workers give up in Los Angeles. They say that the unemployment fell, but not for the right reasons. It's because they're dropping out of the labor force altogether. Just over 100,000 workers have left the LA labor force since the beginning of last year. So that's a good way to fix the unemployment rate. U.S. Actually, that's how they do. That's how they manipulate the unemployment rates already. U.S. Bank and PNC report problems with websites after industry group warns of cyber attacks. After other banks, including JP Morgan, Chase, and Bank of America, and the other zombie banks as well, reported problems, access problems. In other words, you can't withdraw your cash, i.e. it's a bank run. But I like to say cyber attacks, right? Sounds a lot better than a bank run. It says here, France set to implode. It's a Troika soap opera grappling with neo-Nazis. So yeah, France is ready to implode. We just showed all those statistics. So Catalonia is seeking independence once again. Remember the Spanish Revolution in the early 1900s? They plan a vote of self-determination, but of course the Spain is going to use the courts, right? Saying it's unconstitutional. Well, they want to leave it. They're questioning their authority over them, saying your authority is illegitimate. They want to go back to how they had it when they were really free. And the only way that the state can answer is with the batons, is with violence, because they will not just drop the baton and give up their authority. Like police agent provocateurs caught on video inciting violence.